What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our SEC football channel. We've shown you the 2020 schedule for the Ole Miss Rebels. Now we're going to give you their projected record based off of this schedule. And I want to be clear, I have to say this in every video. I know this is not a prediction. This is definitely not our official prediction because there's still a lot of things to go through in the spring before we start actually making predictions. But this is just a projection based off of their schedule, and we just kind of group teams together into different tiers to give you different percentages as to how likely they are to win each game. And here is our key. You see we got 99%, 80%, 60%, 40%, 20%, 1%, or games that are 50-50 games that I could see going either way. And again, when we relate this back to kind of what the spread might be in each game, an 80% game is a game where the spread's going to be double digits. A 60% game is a game where the spread's going to be about a touchdown. A 50-50 game is going to be a game where we expect the spread to be 3, 4, 5 points somewhere in there. That's not exact, but just kind of an idea of what the scale is. So let's get into it now, and we start with the games that Ole Miss should win. They should not have any real trouble. Southeast Missouri should be an easy win. UConn should be an easy win. Georgia Southern could be a little bit tricky. That's a pretty good group of 5 team late in the year. You never know, but I think Ole Miss should be able to win that game. Lane Kiffin coming in. We don't know exactly what we're going to get from Ole Miss, but we believe, based off of what we saw last year and how close they were in so many ball games, that this is going to be a pretty solid team. Maybe not one of the top teams in the SEC, but I think they're better than the bottom teams in the conference. I really do. So 3 wins for them. I think they're more than capable of winning all 3 of these games. And then you go to the games where they have a 60% chance to win. So no 80% games for Ole Miss. We jump all the way to 60% games again that I think they're going to be favored by roughly a touchdown. Vanderbilt on the road, if it was at home, this would probably be an 80% game. I think Ole Miss is clearly better than Vanderbilt coming into this season, but because the game is on the road, that does make it a little more tricky. And same thing with Arkansas. I think Ole Miss coming into the season is clearly a better team than Arkansas, but road games in the SEC are never easy. We don't know for sure how good Arkansas is going to be. So again, I'm going to favor Ole Miss in both of these matchups by more than 3 or 4 points. I think they will be clear favorites in these games, but they're both games that they could potentially get upset in. So 2 of those are the games that I think Ole Miss will be favored in. So we're talking about 5 games. Now we go to the other side of it, and we start with the games where I'm only going to give them about a 20% chance to win. On the road at LSU, very tough place to play, of course. If it was at home, this might be a 40% game because I really believe Ole Miss could be very. I mean, they showed last year they could be competitive against. Look at Auburn. That was a 1-possession game. They were competitive. They just lost a lot of close games. Alabama, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it against Alabama. Alabama's, they're going to be a top-tier team every year. LSU may have a little bit of a drop-off, but we know Alabama. Last year was like their worst year in forever, and they still won 11 games. Florida at home. This one at home, I considered making this just a 40% game, but I just think Florida's clearly the better team. And then Texas A&M, because it is on the road, we're going with 20% for that game as well. Now that leaves us with a couple of games where I'm going 40%. I think Auburn is a little bit below LSU, Alabama, Florida, and the games at home. So that's why I've got this one in the 40% range. Maybe it will be closer to 30% or 35%, but we have to just kind of use the percentages that we have here. They played with Auburn last year, only lost by, I think, 6 points. So, yeah, that's definitely a game that Ole Miss at home could pull off an upset in. And then Baylor, I know Baylor was a top 10 team for most of the year last year, or at least towards the end of the year. But Baylor lost a lot. They lost their head coach. It's the first game of the year. I think Ole Miss has a shot in this game. It's in Houston, a neutral site. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's one that could go either way. But I do favor Baylor a little bit. I think they will be favored by 6 or 7 points. So that's why I've got it in the yellow. Now, we've got one game left. One game that we haven't given a color to, and that's Mississippi State, because I think that's a 50-50 game. I said it in the Mississippi State video. This is one that every year really could go either way. They've got KJ Costello now at quarterback. How good does that make them with this Mike Leach offense? Last year was a great game, of course. Ole Miss kind of gave it away there at the end. We all know what happened there. But yeah, it's one that could go either way, of course. It's the Egg Bowl. I mean, anybody can win that game, so that's a 50-50 game for me. So you look through the schedule, and again, 5 games that I think Ole Miss should win, but only 5 games that they should win. They're going to have to at least knock off someone, at least win that 50-50 game against Mississippi State, or get a little bit of an upset somewhere on the schedule to have a shot at a bowl game. What's their projection? Well, they are projected to get to a bowl game. 6-6 is the projection here for Ole Miss. Again, we're making the green games wins. The games that are in orange or red, which we don't have any red here, they're considered losses. So you got 4 losses pretty much for sure that we're counting here. But out of Baylor and Auburn and Mississippi State, I think out of those 3 games, Ole Miss, based on the numbers, they should be able to win one of those 3 games. Again, not my prediction, but just based off of the percentages and the numbers. So with this schedule, 6-6 is the projection for Ole Miss. I think it's going to be tough to do better than that. I think it's more likely that they go 5-7 than 7-5 when you just look at it, because those games, Baylor and Auburn, are going to be tough, and Mississippi State is one that if they don't win, again, it could easily be 5-7, and our projections showed that as well. It showed the number. It's like 5 point. I can't remember the exact number, 5.5 or 5.6. So we rounded it up to 6-6, but the projection did show them closer to 5-7 than 7-5. I think year 1 under Lane Kiffin, 6-6, get to a bowl game. That would be a successful season. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below.